Hey y'all, we are back, and it's time for another episode of our Boston Red Sox franchise series, whatever you want to call it, on Out of the Park Baseball 21. You can see that it is Monday, July 11th, 2022. Your Red Sox 45 and 51, 5.5 back in a pretty bad AL East this year. It's by far the worst division in baseball, and we are 7.5 out in the AL wildcard race. Now, before I go any further, just want to say a couple things. Number one, I was reading your comments, and Gregory, I want to thank you. I'm not going to put the comment on the screen, but if you guys did not see the comment, Gregory put a nice written recap of how the guys that I traded away and the guys that I traded for in that trade that we did with San Diego did in his save, which is really interesting to read. So, Gregory, I want to thank you for that. Number two, I've been getting this question a lot more recently. I think it's because we've now done 3 separate drafts in this Red Sox series. And it has to deal with a question I get a lot, the drafting, the scouting, and people want advice, this and that. So I'm working on a tutorial. I know I said that a while ago, but I am working on it. The game's now been out for basically a month. So I think I kind of understand how this game plays a little bit. Now, I don't claim to be an expert. I don't want to come off that way, but I think I've played the game long enough to where I can probably make at least a couple good points in the video. So be on the lookout for that. I figured it would be a lot easier to just release a video as opposed to responding to everyone individually. I think that way it reaches more people because I know a lot of people don't even look at the comments of the videos. So I think that this will be the easiest way to do it. So be on the lookout for that. But with that said, let's get into it. You can see that we are 45 and 51. As I said, we actually had a pretty solid June. If we go into June, so we stopped right around here at the first year player draft on June 4th. So we took 3 out of 4 from the Athletics, 2 out of 3 from the Angels, 2 out of 3 from the Royals. We swept the Yankees, which I did not expect. I don't know if that's the first time we've done that in this playthrough, but we did it, which was very surprising. We took 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. We did get swept by the Cardinals, and then we lost 2-3 to the Astros, but then we bounced back, took 2 out of 3 from the Twins, a team we're competing against in the wild card race, but July has just not gone very well. This matchup against the Rays, this 3-game set, was actually for first place basically in the American League East, and we lost 2 out of 3, so that was basically a 2-game swing. Then we lost 2 out of 3 to another AL East team in the Blue Jays, and we just lost 3 out of 4 to Cleveland. And that has brought us to the All-Star break. Now, the hits keep coming, and they don't stop coming. We have lost Mike Clevenger for 12 months. He tore his rotator cuff, so I guess it's a good thing that we didn't give him that contract extension that he wanted because now he's entering his free agent year with a torn rotator cuff, so he will miss the rest of 2022 and at least the first 4 months of 2023, if not more. He may miss all of 2023, so it's not a great look. It's unfortunate because he was doing very well for us. He was anchoring our rotation at 3.03 ERA, a 3.26 FIP, 126 strikeouts to just 34 walks. He was already a 3-win player. What are you going to do? It's super, super unfortunate, but we're out without him. As you guys remember, we're already without Chris Sale. We're already without Andrew Politi, so we've already lost 60% of our starting rotation from the beginning of the season. And Vladimir Gutierrez had a setback. He was due back in a few months, but he had a setback, so now he will be out for an additional 15 months. So not only will he miss all of 2022, he will miss all of 2023 as well. And I can't possibly imagine that he is still on this team in 2024. But that is that. The positive, if you want to look at it that way, is that our pitching staff has actually been pretty solid. We are actually tied for second in runs against. Now we have since plummeted down to 7th. I think the series against Cleveland kind of did us in. We lost 18-1, 7-1, and 6-4, so that probably did us in a little bit and helped us fall down. But I had to call up Zach Ryan for a spot start. He's not really a starter, but he had started games in AAA for us, so he filled in for Clevenger just for that game against Cleveland. And given the circumstances, he did all right. 4 1/3. He allowed 2 runs. One of them was earned. He walked 3, struck out 3, allowed 6 hits through 94 pitches. But Brian Mata has had a very good debut season for us, which has been a bright spot in this otherwise kind of forgettable season. A 3.06 ERA, a 3.21 FIP. He's been a 1-win player. He struck out 43. He's walked 16. He's been very good. Take a look at how Michael Baez has done since we got him. The ERA is high, but the FIP of 4.07 suggests to me that he's been getting a little unlucky. He struck out 54. He's walked 18. I think he'll be fine. I'm still excited that we got him. Jacob Nix has done a little better. He's kind of fallen off recently, but you can see the 4.04 ERA, the 3.99 FIP. He's been close to a one-win player, 54 strikeouts, 14 walks in his time here with the Red Sox. Thad Ward has really fallen off a cliff recently. He was doing very well early in the season, then he was doing all right, and now he's really not doing any of that. So we probably will have to try to find a replacement for him at some point, although I don't really know if it makes sense because the way I look at this team right now, I should actually say I just looked at the bullpen. We did make a trade, a very small trade log. We made it with the Phillies. Where is it? So we traded Ryan Presley, who was not doing well for us at all. He was only on a 1-year contract. I kind of wanted to help him build up his value, and he did not, suffice to say, bring up his value. He had a 5.74 ERA, 66 strikeouts to 17 walks, and so that's not terrible, but he just was not very good for us. So we traded him to the Phillies along with Tony Santillan to the Phillies for a couple of middle infield prospects in Dalton Guthrie and Daniel Brito. I just figured that they could be good depth, if not at the major league level, then at the minor league level. But I could definitely see one of these guys or both of these guys on our bench at some point. It just kind of made sense. I was looking kind of for guys that were in the minor leagues that I wouldn't have to put on the major league roster immediately. So that's what we traded Ryan Presley for. As I said, 1-year contract. Could I have gotten more for him? Maybe. I don't know. But it's just he was not doing what I signed him to do, and with Chafin ready to come back, I needed to get rid of one of these bullpen guys, and he was the one that made the most sense. You can see Chafin, he has made 2 appearances. He has pitched a total of 1 inning, and he has led 3 runs. So great start. Happy to have him back. Deplanier, another positive. He's done pretty well in this long relief role. Remember, his ERA was over 8 at one point. Now it's dropped down to 5, which, it's not good. You don't want an ERA of 5.25, but it just goes to show that he has improved since he went down on that little stint to AAA. He's come back up, and he's pitched pretty well. The bullpen's been all right. Hader's been solid. Yates has kind of hit a rough patch of late. You can see that this game against the Rays was not very good. That helped inflate his ERA. There were a couple of games before that, too. Colton Brewer has kind of regressed a little bit as the seasons went on. Diaz has been average, but that's basically it. The pitching has probably kept us more in games than the offense. The offense has been dreadful. Kirilloff has slowed down a little bit. Devers has kind of turned his way back up, which is good to see. His OPS is now above 800. He has 17 home runs. Ramos has been a very good signing for us. I would definitely like to probably keep him here for at least a few years. You can see he's on an auto-renew contract too, which is good. He's been a 3-win player basically this year, a 909 OPS. He's been pretty much our most consistent offensive threat at the plate. Ozuna has been very bad. Gamble has taken over the spot of Joey Gallo, who is on a rehab assignment. I did not mention that. Joey Gallo got injured too, and he is currently on a rehab assignment. And Gamble has not been good in the starting lineup. We called up Nick Gonzalez. He's only been in 2 games. That's why the line is like that. I figured it was about time to get him called up. Freddie Galvis has not been as good offensively this year as he was the previous 2 seasons. He has an OPS of exactly 700, which is nowhere near what he's done the past 2 years. And we still have him for a couple of years, which is fine. As I said, I did not bring Galvis in for his offense, although I would like him to be doing a little better than a 700 OPS. And Christian Vasquez has, I suppose, kind of improved a little bit. He's now gotten his OPS above 500 to 522. I'd like to think he's helping our young starting pitchers out, but he will definitely not be here after this season. If I can find a trade, I might trade him. And this is what I wanted to talk about before we get into things. I think that as things currently stand, this team is not going to win anything. I think it makes sense probably to sell this year. I forget what our owner's goal was. If we go to owner, so he wanted us to achieve a winning record, so basically just play 500 baseball, and I don't quite think that will happen this year. We're 45-51. The team is just very, very inconsistent. Now, the one reason I don't want to sell is because if we actually go to front office and personnel, you can see we gave some of our coaches contract extensions, but you can see that my contract only goes through 2022, so I'm a little worried that if I do sell and I don't meet his goal, I might get fired because this team has not done very well in the time that I've overseen them. If we go to history, go all the way down here. So remember, we took over in 2020. We made the playoffs, and then last year we won 80-82, which is very disappointing. And this year we're 45-51. and it looks like we're going to probably miss out on the playoffs again. So I really don't want to get fired. If I do make trades in an ideal world, I'd love for them to help us both short-term and long-term, but as you guys know, realistically, the odds of that happening are pretty slim, especially with the assets that we do have. You can take a look. We have Andrew McCutchen on a contract. He's a guy that I would not mind trading away to a team that needs some veteran leadership that's trying to make a playoff push, because clearly that is not us. Ozuna, if somebody would like him, I would not be against trading him. He has 3 years left on this contract, and he's due to make $32 million over those 3 years. I don't really think that's as tradable of an asset as I thought it would be. I thought he would be doing a little better than he has been, but unfortunately that just has not happened. He did hit 30 home runs last season, but other than that, he just hasn't been the player that I thought I would get when I signed him. Christian Vasquez, as I mentioned, if there's a trade out there for him now, he's a guy that I'd probably like to move. Galvis, I don't really think I want to trade him. He's been our captain. I don't really think he has any value as it is, despite the fact that he's 3 stars, because these kinds of middle infielders that can't do much offensively but are good defensively are pretty easy to find. Starting pitching-wise, I don't really think it makes sense to trade anybody in my starting rotation. If anything, I think the starting rotation is pretty much set. We have Sale coming back in a month, so he will take over Thad Ward's spot most likely. I mean, we could probably maybe try to trade for one starting pitcher, but another one of the positives is that, where do I have him at? Slater O'Brien. I don't know why he's listed as a relief pitcher, but he's been in the starting rotation. You can see that he's becoming quite the valuable starting pitcher. You can see he has a 3.73 ERA with Portland and 6 starts. I called him up from high A. A 3.10 FIP, so even better, a 112 ERA plus, 38 strikeouts to just 8 walks. So it looks like he's probably going to be a good piece, and that kind of goes for some of the other prospects in our system as well. I'm not going to go through every single one of them right now, but like a guy like Havlicek, too, for example, this was the guy that we got in the 30th round in the 2020 draft, and he's actually becoming a pretty solid prospect, too. We started him in low A this season, and through 4 starts, he's been very, very good. The walks are a little concerning, but he's kind of developed into a nice prospect, too, considering, round 30, you don't really expect too much, but he has definitely become pretty solid. But yeah, we're at the All-Star break. I guess we can go through the results. And let's see. So we got Liam Hendrickson as a relief pitcher. Did I talk about Liam Hendricks? I don't recall talking about Liam Hendricks. I guess, did I forget him? I don't know. Well, yeah, Liam Hendricks is having a very good year. I don't know if I said his name. I don't think I did. But we got Liam Hendrickson. Let's see. Did we get anybody else? Kirilloff made it, so you can see his slash line right there, 294, 385, 446. He has a 1.8 WAR and a 122 WRC+. That looks like about all that we got in yet. So we only got Hendricks and Kirilloff. The rest of the guys in the AL, there's the AL roster right there if you want to pause and take a look. And then here is your NL roster down here. Did anybody make it? Mookie made it for St. Louis again. Xander Bogaerts looks like did not make it, which is interesting. And do I see anybody else here? No. Okay. So that's that. We can take a look at the prospect game, see if we got anybody. Luis Perales made it. I think he made it last year too. Slater O'Brien. Jerry Pullen, this was our first round pick. Anybody else in particular? No, it does not look like. And then here's the National League prospects if you want to take a look. And who won? It looks like, I suppose, the National League won, since Jordan Walker was the MVP. So that is that. I don't really know what, as I say this a lot, I don't know what I would trade for. I mean, I'd like to look at the block and see who is exactly available. Seems like Edwin Diaz is the best guy there. A lot of relief pitchers, which is to be expected. That's normally what happens. So I think I'd like to try to get younger at this point. So I'm going to try to explore some trades. I don't really know what I would trade. I mean, any assets that we did have are basically gone. I mean, we can't trade Chris. I mean, we can trade injured players, but Chris Sale's not going to really have any value. Clevenger's not going to have any value because he's going to be a free agent after the year. Politi won't have any value. McHugh is not going to really have any value. He's done for the year. I guess the one positive, if you want to look at it this way with McHugh, is that he won't reach his vesting option. So that's $8 million that we'll have to spend next season. Gutierrez, he doesn't have any value. It just, that's the problem. A lot of these guys really don't have a ton of value, so I don't really know what I could get for them. But I'm going to try to look for some trades to help this team out for the future, because I think now we tried to make this team a contender immediately, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to work out for whatever reason. So we're gonna try to look for some trades now, not necessarily to help us win this year, but to help us win for the future. So I will check back in if I'm able to find some trades. Okay. Wow. My record time says 2 hours and 1 minute. It is Thursday, July 14th. The second half of the season is set to start tomorrow. The Red Sox are in full rebuild move, everyone. I had enough. I was tired of mediocrity. I could see what the ceiling of the team currently was, and it was not very high. So I had enough. I'm done. This team has been torn down. We had a huge fire sale, and the team will look completely different than you guys will have remembered it. So we made a lot of trades. And I said this a couple times. I try to keep this somewhat realistic, and it's not going to happen all the time. The amount of trades I just made are I'm not, even Jerry DiPoto doesn't make the amount of trades that I just made in a 3-day span. But I'm going to walk y'all through every single trade that I made, and then we will go from there. This is something that I really did not want to have to do. I figured taking over the Red Sox, I knew the farm system was bad, but I thought we had enough talent and we could supplement it with, other minor acquisitions. That's just not how it's going to work out. So we're starting a new chapter in the story of the Boston Red Sox organization. So with that said, but take a look at this record, by the way, 6 games under 500. It's just going to get worse, most likely, and that's by intention. We are starting over with the Red Sox, and hopefully our owner gives us the leeway to build this team the way that I want to build it, and he gives us some time to get it done. So we're going to go to the good old trade log and look at all these trades right here. Look at all these pairs of Red Sox. So let's just go in order. First trade we made was with the Seattle Mariners. They really wanted Andrew McCutchen. I don't know why, but they wanted him. They wanted him when I shopped him around off camera earlier in the series. They wanted him now. So we traded Andrew McCutchen, Luke Tendler, Jairo Diaz, Pedro Espinola, and Tanner Nishioka to the Mariners. And in return, we got a prospect package of Chavis Young, Elvis Alvarado, Hunter Brown, and we also got a relief pitcher, 26 years old, Aaron Fletcher. This was just a way to get McCutchen off of our books. He does have the guaranteed year next season in 2023, and the Mariners not only wanted him, they did not feel the need for me to retain any salary in this deal, which was a big help. That's one of the things I really wanted to do. I wanted to get as much salary off the books as I possibly could, and in return we got Chavis Young, who looks like he could be a serviceable outfielder, if not minor league depth. We took a chance on him because he has a broken kneecap, so we're hoping he can come back from his injury and be productive. We got this closer, relief pitcher, Elvis Alvarado. There we go. And it looks like he'll be a pretty good relief pitcher for us. He's durable, too, and we've had so many problems with injuries that's good to see. He doesn't have a lot of loyalty, but it's fine. Hunter Brown, another guy that we're taking a chance on who was injured. He has shoulder inflammation. He'll be out for another 3 months. But if that control comes around, he can be a pretty good starting pitcher. It would seem like he has the stamina. He has the 3++ pitches, and he has the stuff. The control is the only question mark right now, but he's 23, so he has some time to work around it. And then we got this relief pitcher who is now on our team, Aaron Fletcher. You can see he's very good. He is young. He is cost-controlled for a while. He was doing pretty well for Seattle, a 3.37 FIP, 37 strikeouts to 11 walks, so he is now a part of our bullpen. Trade number 2 was with the Diamondbacks, and we traded John Boehmer, Danny Diaz, Jacob Amaya, and Tyler Dearden to the Diamondbacks for J.B. Bukauskas, Buddy Kennedy, and Seth Beer. So as I hope you can see the trend by now that we're trying to get younger with these trades, and we're trying to replenish our farm system, which is clearly not good enough. So we traded Boehmer, who is just a minor league pitcher. I don't think will ever amount to anything. Danny Diaz, this was a guy that we took. I thought it was a guy that we took in the draft, but he was part of our organization prior. I don't really see how this guy's ever going to amount to anything, but the Diamondbacks seem to think that he will, so that's fine. Amaya was the main piece of this trade. You see he is currently injured with a strained oblique, but he'll be back before the season's over. This guy had a lot of interest around the league, which I was a little surprised about because he doesn't really have a great track record, but he was the one that helped get this deal done, and I think the team is better off for it. He will go over to Arizona. He will become a starter immediately, so nothing bad there. And then Tyler Dearden, just a throw-in lefty bat with not a ton of power. We have enough lefties as it is. That's my high school, by the way, Rancocas Valley. That was my high school, so it's cool to see them in the game. And in return, we got J.B. Bukauskas, who they had him as a reliever. We're going to use him as a starter. I think that he has the stuff to be a starter. You can see he has 60 grade stuff. He has 4 good pitches. The control and the movement are about average, maybe a little below. You can see he's an extremely hard worker and has a good head on his shoulders, but he is not very loyal, but I think I can get around that. So we will put him in our starting rotation. He's actually in our starting rotation. Only 25 years old. He's only been in the majors for 35 days, so he's cost-controlled for a while. Buddy Kennedy, a guy that went to Mike Trout's high school, Millville in New Jersey. A guy that looks like he could be a pretty good infielder for us. He can hit for a little bit of power, not a ton of pop, but he won't strike out a lot, and he has a pretty good eye. He can run the base as well. He can play an okay defensive third base. He has a good arm. Can always move him to first maybe if we really need to, but that's who we got there, and you can see he is only 23 years old. He has never been in the majors yet. And then we got Seth Beer, the guy that in past out-of-the-park baseball games, for those that don't know, this guy was a god. He would always turn out to be very, very good. Seems like he's kind of gotten toned down a little bit recently, but still, this is a guy with 65 grade home run power who won't kill you in the batting average department. He won't strike out a lot. He has a good eye, so he'll get on base at a decent clip. Not really any speed. He's not really good defensively, but still, I think that offense will be very good for us. He's only been in the majors for 2 years, and you can see first year wasn't really too good, his first taste in the majors, but last year he put up an 845 OPS and 22 home runs. He was basically a 3-win player, and I think that he can kind of be that kind of guy, maybe even a little better. You can see he's only 25 years old. He will turn 26 in September. So that was trade number 2. Trade number 3 was with the Angels. They are in win now mode, so we traded them Joey Gallo, Kirby Yates, and an older minor league depth starter for Jordan Adams. Adams, once again, an outfielder, probably one of the better players we got in all of these trade packages. OSA seems to like him a little more. He has low adaptability, but low greed as well. He's very humble, a lot of speed, elite speed, 80 grade. He can run the bases very well. He can play a pretty good defensive left field or center field. He seems like he could develop a little bit of power, really good eye at the plate. He'll get on base at a really good clip. Seen Double-A in the minors, he had on-base percentage of .387. He was already a 2-win player. So this is definitely a guy I can see in our outfield pretty soon. He's only 22 years old, and if he's not up by the end of this year, he will definitely be up at some point next year. We had to trade Joey Gallo. Basically, if you still have not noticed another trend, I tried to trade guys that we weren't going to bring back next year, guys that only really had 1 year left on their contracts, and Joey was a guy like that. The acquisition didn't really work out as I thought it would, so I knew I was not going to re-sign him, so I figured I might as well get some type of value for him. So Joey Gallo is off to try to help the Angels win a title. They are in win now mode, and I hope that he can do that. I hope that he can get a ring. Same for Kirby Yates. He does have a player option, but I figured he would pick that up, and I just wanted to redo this entire team. So I traded him away. That way he is off the books too. You can see that not a really good year for us this year. The FIP was better, but the 4.78 ERA was not very good, so we traded him. And in return, we got Jordan Adams, who I'm very excited about. The White Sox and the Braves are kind of messing up my trade log here, but fourth trade, number 4, we made it with a division rival, the Toronto Blue Jays. And in this trade, we traded Liam Hendricks, Josh Hader, Roberto Ramos, and Kemp Alderman for Jordan Groshans and Alek Manoah. Now, this was a very, very big trade, probably the biggest trade that we made. And you can see that we traded a lot of good players, but Liam Hendricks, take a look at his contract. He had a team option for next season that I didn't know if I was going to pick up because he will be 34 next year, and I figured I might be able to use that money for something else. He had a very good year first, so I wanted to trade him now to get some good prospects. Hader, is going to be in his final year of arbitration this season, and then he will probably want a big money contract after the 2023 season, which is not too surprising. He deserves it, but I don't know if I want to be the guy that pays a relief pitcher as much money as he's probably going to command, so I just wanted to get him out while I could still get some decent value for him. Ramos was the guy that was really tough to trade. He was doing very well. He was on a good contract, but at 27 years old, I figured I'd trade him while his value was high. And yeah, I hope he does good. I hope that he still is a good player with Toronto. I hope that he helps them because they're in win now mode too. I hope that he goes and helps them win. But I figured I'd just trade him now while his value is high and I could get some good prospects in return instead of maybe waiting too long and then he regresses and then I don't get anything. So it was tough to trade Ramos, and we also traded in Kemp Alderman, who seems like he could be a pretty solid starter, but the control, it seems like it's pretty much capped out at 30 to 35, and that's not what I like in my starting pitchers. I would not put a guy like that in the rotation normally for the most part, so he is gone, and in return we got Jordan Groshans, who you can see is basically a top 50 prospect. He can play a pretty good defensive third base, or he can play shortstop. He has speed. He can run the bases pretty well. He's competent at that. And it seems like he could have a pretty solid bat as well. Osei seems like a little more than my head scout, but they're both pretty similar for the most part. So we got Jordan Groshans. And then we also got Alek Manoah, top 60 prospect, a starting pitcher who's only 24 years old, a guy that looks like he can slot into our rotation. In fact, he is in our rotation right now. And it seems like he will be just fine. You see Toronto brought him up, and a 6.10 FIP is not very welcoming. It's a little concerning, but I think that he'll be fine. And he's just another young arm to add to our ever-growing stable of young arms. So this was a big trade, but we got two really good prospects out of it, so I was happy with it. The settings that I'm going to show again, hard and heavily favored prospects. It is not easy to get prospects. I looked at the prospect pipeline and the minor league system rankings. I tried to get better prospects than the ones that I did get, and it was just very difficult with the assets that we had as a team. And the assets were not very good, so I think the fact that I did get the prospects that I got, I was pretty surprised, and I'm pretty happy with the haul that I did get, and you'll see why in a second. We made another trade, number 5, with the Astros, who are trying to build a dynasty, so we're going to try to help them out and try to see if they can win a title this year. We traded them Chris Sale, who will be perhaps their arm down the stretch that they need. I've talked about Sale's contract a lot, the fact that he's selfish, the fact that he has a lot of negative personality traits. I said I don't think he's going to opt out after this season, so I got that contract off the books. It's a shame, if he had stayed healthy, everything, maybe none of this would have had to happen, but his injury kind of kickstarted a lot of stuff this season, and it just made sense to get rid of him now. We also traded our captain, Freddie Galvis, who a lot of teams were interested in. I figured, we're not competing for anything. We have enough leaders as it is, so I don't really think that we need him. The Astros will probably find his services more useful than I will. And then we traded them Nathan Webb and Naisbel Marcano, just a couple of minor league catchers. And in return, we got a catcher to fill someone else's spot, and you'll see that in a second. We got Victor Caratini. We got another top prospect in Kay Cavalli, who should be a pretty solid starting pitcher. We brought Manny Ramirez back, different Manny Ramirez, obviously. Another starting pitcher. Control is the main issue, but if it does get to that 40 grade control, he should be another reliable starter. He has, negative personality traits as well, but the difference between him and a guy like Sale is that Ramirez, I should say, does not cost $27.5 million, and he's a little younger, so we'll see. He's obviously not as good as Sale, but we'll see what he can turn into. We also got Dari Lorenzo, looks like he could be a solid shortstop. Should play a really good defensive shortstop. I can't remember how to talk. I've been talking for a while now, trying to go through all these trades. Not a lot of pop in the bat, but it seems like he could probably hold his own at the dish, and he does have some speed. And we also got Forrest Whitley in the deal, another guy that has some negative personality traits, but the 4 really good pitches, his fastball, curveball, slider, changeup. He has pretty good stuff. The movement's average, maybe a little above. Control, once again, the only issue, but we'll see if he can make it as a starting pitcher. And the final trade that we made was basically a salary dump, and it was to get out of Ozuna's contract, which I thought would be a tradable asset. I came to learn that it was basically an untradeable contract. So we'll take a look. $12 million this year, $12 million next year, $10 million in 2024, $10 million in 2025. So maybe it was not as tradable as I thought it would be. So we traded Ozuna and Christian Vasquez and a couple of minor league arms to the Phillies, who are also in win now mode. They're trying to make a push. You see, they're 48 and 48, so this is the time that they're going to have to do it. And we got Zach Wheeler's contract back, but the Phillies are retaining 20% of it. So we'll see if we're able to trade this somewhere down the road. If not, at least we get, at least we get out of the contract before we would have gotten out of Ozuna's contract. And Wheeler's actually been a pretty good long relief guy for the Phillies this year. So we'll see if he can continue to do that with us. I don't really understand. And that's the same thing in my Phillies save too. I think Wheeler's a much better pitcher than the ratings in this game would make him out to be. And I don't think that's my bias talking either. That is one of my issues. I think that he's clearly a much better pitcher than, really, like, his pitches are better than this. I don't know how else to say it. Like, he's a better pitcher than what these ratings are. And it's not even that he's regressed. It's just this is really kind of how he starts out when you start a new save, which I don't really understand. But anyway, that was it. Those were all the trades that we made. So the reason I did that is now if we go to reports and info and the minor league system rankings, now I don't know where we were before. I think we were towards the bottom. But now you can see your Red Sox are third. Now, granted, I do want to point out that this annual top system report, at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean a ton, right? This is what OSA and the Baseball News Network kind of thinks of the league, but it's still good to look at just to kind of get a glance and see how your minor league system stacks up. And ours is number 3 right now. I have to imagine we were probably in this 20 to 30 range, probably not below, probably not like in here, but we weren't very good. But now you can see that we've rebuilt our minor league system. Slater O'Brien is now one of the top 15 prospects in all of baseball. Gonzalez, who is on the team right now, is the top 30. Castro, who is a guy on a minor league contract that the Red Sox signed in real life in 2019. He is basically a top 30 prospect. He's with our DSL team right now. We get Groshans, who's a top 56 prospect. Adams, 58. And then we have some 60s and 70s all throughout. So, it's good. We rebuilt this team. We got the youth in here that I've been saying we needed to get in for a while, but I never really did. And this is it. This is your Boston Red Sox. All right, it is the end of the season. As I expected, the team basically fell off a cliff. We were, 45 and 51, and we finished 68 and 94. We actually went on a nice run in August. You can see that we won 8 straight games, starting with this 4-game sweep against Tampa Bay, but then everything just got worse again, which is not too surprising. We went 4 and 18 in September. August was actually our best month, which is kind of surprising, considering all the trades that we made. We went 16 and 13 in that month, but ultimately we finished 68 and 94. Now, it was not the worst record in the entire league. You could see that the White Sox were worse than us, the Royals were worse than us, the Giants were worse than us, the Brewers were worse than us, and the Marlins were worse than us. So that's 5 teams that were worse than us. The Nationals had the same record as us. So if nothing else, we've guaranteed ourselves a top 6 pick in the draft, I suppose, or a top 7 pick in the draft, which is fine. You can always get good players at 7th overall. That'll be the highest that we've picked since we've started this save. Actually, we'll stay at the home screen here. So 15th in runs scored, 7th in runs against. So the pitching staff was actually pretty not horrible this year. We were 5th in FIP, which is encouraging, and we were 2nd in pitching WAR. But 15th in runs scored, the offense just wasn't good enough as was expected, especially after the trade deadline. So we'll start by OPS. Devers finished the year with an 842 OPS. He led the team with 27 home runs. Seth Beer, after getting traded to us, he had a 97 WRC plus. He did not get on base as much as I thought he would, but I kind of figured that with everything that was going on, the team chemistry wasn't super great because we were losing so much. So I think that, in an ideal year, Beer would be better. Garcia, this is a guy that we picked up off of the waiver wire. I figured that he said he makes road trips fun, so I thought that, team could use somebody like that since we were losing so many games. And he actually did not awful with us. I kind of expected him to do a lot worse. It seems like he tailed off as the season ended, but he was doing a lot better than this. Ultimately, he finished with a 736 OPS, and he was a positive WAR player, so I'm sure defensively he was good. Nick Gonzalez did not do good, but he's improved a lot, so he will probably be our starting second baseman next season. I don't see why not. Tsutsugo finished with a 686 OPS. He had a .180. So bad. With 20 home runs. We called him Marcus Wilson because Kirilloff got injured, and Wilson clearly was not very good. Gamble was not very good. Dahlbeck was truly a 3 true outcomes kind of guy. He had 9 home runs. He struck out 91 times, and he walked 17. He had a .178. And then our catcher, Luke Maley, was not very good. So the offense just as a whole was not very good. But the pitching staff wasn't awful. Mata in his debut season was pretty good. And I kind of want to put, all this, you have to consider with everything that went on over the final couple of months of the season, some of these guys probably didn't perform as they probably should have. Baez really struggled down the stretch for us. He pitched to a 5.52 ERA, but I think that in an ideal scenario, he will be fine. The extreme fly ball might be part of it. And it seems like he did let up about 2 home runs a game, which you can't do. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see if he's really the guy that we want to hitch our wagon to. But Manoah did good, a 4.22 ERA when he got traded to us. So he was pretty much the same as he was in Toronto, except the FIP was a lot better at 4.10. So he'll be in our rotation next year. Here he's about a 1.5 win pitcher. He's only 24 years old, so he'll continue to grow. I said Mata had a pretty good season. Jacob Nix did pretty well after getting traded to us. Not as well as he did in San Diego, which is to be expected. Coming over to the AL East. But he was a 3-win pitcher. He had basically 5 wins overall in the season, which is really good for a 26-year-old. I'm happy with that. So he'll be in the rotation. Bukauskas was up and down, but I kind of like his stuff, so I'm sure he will at least have a chance to be in the rotation coming into next season. And yeah, the bullpen it depends. Feltman was pretty good, so he'll have a bullpen role for himself next year. Fletcher is obviously a guy that we're going to keep. He pitched to a 4.05 ERA coming over to us. Wheeler coming over to us really struggled, but his FIP was actually better than it was with the Phillies, which is a little encouraging. Duplantier was very up and down all season long. Chafin is not a guy we'll be bringing back. He had a vesting option, and it required him to pitch 50 innings, and he only had 23 2/3, so he will not be back, which I'm fine with. He is 32 years old. Bizzardo did better in his second go-around of Major League action, so it seems like he learned some stuff, so he'll probably be in the bullpen next year. Espinal still clearly did not learn anything. He was not very good. And that is that. Now, normally I would just stop here, but I will simulate up ahead to the end of the playoffs because I do want to see if I will get fired. I can't imagine that my owner's too happy. You can see he's undecided. My contract is up after this season, so I'm going to simulate ahead, see if I get fired. Hopefully I don't, because I did all those trades with the mindset that I would be here for a couple more years, but we'll see. Cross your fingers. Let's see if I get fired. All right, so our season score this year is 99. This is just a terrible score. It does not look like I got fired. We'll check our inbox here. McHugh failed to meet the vesting option criteria, so he will not be back next year. The same with Chafin. Our fan loyalty increased, which is good to know. New budget. Our contract did get extended, so we got extended for 2 years and $1 million per year, and not that that matters. We did lose our assistant GM and our bench coach. It's fine. I kind of wanted more anyway. We'll take a look at the top prospects. We don't have any of the top prospects, but if we go to the minor league system rankings, we're still in the top 6, which is good. It seems like O'Brien kind of dropped off, but that's fine. I'm happy with where we are considering where we were before, but we're good. We still are the general manager of the Boston Red Sox, guys. So next episode will be the off season. I know what I want to do. I want to get some offense. I think we have the pitching that we need, but I do want to get some offense in here, and I'm sure there's going to be some names. We should have a lot of money. Yeah, we have $116 million, so I would like to get some offense in here, and I think that is exactly what we'll do. So I might not upload on Wednesday. I don't know yet. So I might not stick with the every other day thing. It depends what happens, but anyway, thank you for watching this episode, guys, and I will see you in the next one.